Let's get to my next guest, Mark Koziel, is Global Head of Allinial Global and is in Australia right now to share his views on the onset of private equity and accounting firm ownership and his predictions in politics, the global economy and society for 2023. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Wanted to first get the main question off the bat, which is what are you doing here in Australia?
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, Allinial Global is a global independent association of accounting firms. So we have 264 across the globe, 106 countries. And those firms really need to get together and work with each other to help their clients. So many of our clients in the small and medium enterprise space, the SME space, is really getting global these days. It's been going on for a number of years. Our member firms are well equipped to do that. They want to stay independent. We like to say locally independent, globally strong, and I like to get out and visit with our firms. And so I'm here to visit Bentleys over the next couple of days, and they're one of the top 15 firms in the country and met some great people over the last week.
Yeah, interesting. So are there any sort of common discussion points or themes you're getting from people as you sort of meet them and chat about what's happening in their world right now?
It is a global environment, right? And so I've been fortunate. I practiced as a CPA in the U.S. for a number of years. I worked for the national body, and as I come here, and I got to meet with some of their clients as well, to hear what the small business issues are and what the firm issues are. They are incredibly similar to other parts of the world, and staffing being number one. Everyone's saying, and this kind of goes into the economic discussion, are we falling into a recession, and we need to temper inflation, but we still can't find people. Small businesses are still struggling to find people to get the work done. And when you look at the baby boomer generation retiring out and the younger generation that's coming into the workforce, there's just not physically enough people to replace what's going out. And I think that that's going to hopefully help us to keep away any type of a recessionary environment.
Just on that one, and in particular North America, more as a matter of interest, because I mean, one thing that has been noteworthy since the start of the pandemic is, well, the popular phrase was the Great Resignation, but if you look at the data, it's a drop in the participation rate, which is actually an extension of a trend from a very, very long time, which is contributing to this kind of shortage of workers. How are businesses over there coping with that? Do they have any kind of ideas as to what's going on, why, and how they're going to adjust their businesses?
Here and there, like I said, there's so many similarities. Talking to the small businesses here and talking to small businesses in North America, it's this idea of outsourcing, and that's where we're talking to companies about the use of our member accounting firms who can outsource. So one great example for me is the not-for-profit community, and that's one that I served for a number of years. And when you look at the not-for-profit community, who are always struggling from a budgetary constraint standpoint, and there's a shortage of accountants now, and the price of accountants goes up, not-for-profits would love to have somebody at a CFO level experience, but they can only afford a controller, right? And so then they down hire a little bit and they don't get the talent that they want, and they're not getting the information that they need, versus they could go to a firm and they could hire them as their outsourced CFO and be able to utilize them. And then it's kind of like on an on-call basis that they're going to get that level of expertise. The firm knows accounting packages so well. It's just a better way of doing business today. Outsourcing is a major component of that today.
It's interesting, and in fact, just to pick up on that point there, we were just discussing this morning, because it's our reporting season here across the ASX at the moment, that a lot of these earnings releases are being either delayed or staggered or being just messed up because there's a lack of accountants to be able to get the books ready on time. Sure. I mean, is the potential solution there, or at least what you've been hearing from folks, that there's going to be a sort of increased casualisation, or perhaps even put the power put back into accounting firms to be more flexible, that you're not going to, again, hire your full-time CFO or whatever it happens to be, but there are people who can rove around, sell themselves out to multiple firms and do business that way?
Yep, absolutely. And Bentley is our firm here. They're already providing that level of service. And so when we look at that, that's the same thing happening in the U.S. and North America, is the fact that that can happen. And it's going to be easier for a firm to be able to source an accountant in a different way. And when you try to put all of that together, now the business can focus on what it does and then outsource these other things. And accounting is not where it stops either. Technology, IT outsourcing. In fact, we, Allinial Global, a global firm, we outsource our chief information officer to someone who's transformative and understands the profession. Marketing, HR, those things too. Now, firms and companies are starting to realize that we should stick to what we're good at, and then the other things we can find some other type of provider that could give us a better resource versus trying to go it alone.
I only ask this because it seems to be one of the topics du jour, which is artificial intelligence with the emergence of ChatGPT and everything. I mean, is there any talk, I mean, the kind of, I guess, economics 101 playbook of this is that if you lack labor, you try to, introduce technology and automate. Yep. Is there any sort of desire to perhaps, leverage some of these new technologies amidst the accounting community at all?
The firms do. And I just had this conversation with some of the partners at Bentleys, and some of our other partners have said the same thing. And a lot of our firms are using some level of, we'll call it outsource, offshore, right shore, that they may have an operation in the Philippines, very popular coming out of Australia, New Zealand, or India and other parts of the world. But that doesn't replace someone that we were going to hire. That just supplements for growth. And technology has to be an important part of that. And some of our highest, fastest growth firms have said, as CEO says, when I look at a process and decision making, we look at a process and we say, can we automate 100% of that process first? If we can't automate 100%, can we automate part of it? And then can we outsource or offshore a part of that process? And if we can't do either of those, can we offshore 100% of that process? Can't do that, then we're going to look and we're going to have to hire somebody. But the hiring decision comes last in this, not to prevent someone from employ, but more so because they're not out there. And so we need to look at things differently. So it's AI, technology, then outsource, then hire.
That's really interesting. Last question, and just because it was something that's was popped over to me as being perhaps a curious element, which is private equity is getting increasingly involved in the space. Could you describe that?
So private equity has taken a big interest in accounting firms because they've looked at firms, they've been a very good revenue stream and good profitability. The partners have done well. And so private equity is always looking for the next big business. And there's this thing now that accounting firms have transformed beyond just the traditional audit and tax that we've been trusted to do for a long time. There's a lot of advisory services that are built up into that now. And so that's starting to morph into some of these technology companies and the like. Private equity is very interested in that. For the firm, it's an influx of resource now that they can invest higher level technology and then also look at trying to grow and trying to build up a firm through acquisition by having additional resources behind that. And what I like is the fact that now firms that used to have these kind of partner panels, if you will, are now moving to more of a corporate structure, CEOs, COs, so a C-suite, but then there's a board, and that board has outside influence with private equity owners sitting around the table and actually giving them advice. And now looking at it from more of a corporate environment than the old traditional partnership model that used to be there.